Hi, everybody. We're going to do this video a little bit differently because recently Jody and I were talking about some of the things we've been seeing in the news around issues around cybersecurity. And when he was just walking me through the way he thinks about it and kind of what the nature of what's actually going on right now is, we thought let's just get this out there PSA style, because I really don't think everybody is taking this as seriously as they probably need to be. So maybe just give us an overview of what we've been seeing recently.
Yeah, and I think you're probably right. This is something that needs everybody's attention that has a business that is in IT or not, because it quite literally could be an existential threat to your organization. So the big headline is that in July, OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, announced that they had identified in testing one of their frontier models, meaning their most advanced models, was in a sandbox, which is just a fancy IT term for a safe place to test things. It's supposed to be cut off from the outside world. And in this case, it was supposed to have no internet access, no access to any other resources on the network. But it did have what they call the guardrails turned down. Guardrails are the pieces of code that tell the model you must be behaving in an aligned manner. What does that mean? That just means you have to behave legally and ethically, essentially.
Right.
So all the public models have guardrails. They were turned down for the purposes of testing here. With that said, this model was given a security challenge, and in pursuit of solving that challenge, it realized I can't do it within this sandbox. So it figured out ways to break out of the sandbox, gain access to other parts of the network, eventually made its way to the internet, and then from there, through a series of techniques, gained access to real live production environments at a third party, a completely external organization, and gathered information that it needed to come back and solve the challenge. So it's a real attack executed fully autonomously by an AI frontier model.
Yeah, so we've seen some flavors of that, or I feel like we've heard stories like that over the last year, right? But this one, not only were there a few of them right in a row, but then we also saw that they were using like social engineering techniques. That's new.
Yes, so two things there that you hit on. One, we know of at least 4 different models from major labs: Meta, Anthropic, OpenAI, Kimi's a Chinese model that's open weights. They have all announced publicly that they discovered similar behaviors in there and breaches in their models. So this is enough of a body of evidence to say this is simply how AI frontier models behave when ungoverned. With that knowledge, the other very interesting part is that although the speed and complexity and sophistication at which these attacks took place and were executed from start to finish is unprecedented and frankly beyond the human scale, what is not new at all are the techniques that it used. It used techniques like discovery of known exploits and bugs in code, discovery of unknown, aka zero-day exploits, meaning brand new exploits, social engineering, coordination, credential reuse, weak password, brute force hacking, all the classic stuff we've seen from human hackers, in some cases machine enabled even before AI. It's the same techniques. They're even leaving messages for each other on the dark web and deep web and message boards, just like the old school hackers would do. So that's really an interesting and noteworthy point.
Right, but like you said, because it's machine bolstered or there's no way that humans could keep up with it.
No, and really that's where it changes the order of prioritization in how we defend ourselves. In the old days, people would talk about the table stakes being antivirus on your machines and firewalls. That's your basic stuff. And then you had some decent level of protection. That stuff is still critical. But then you start adding things like social engineering, which is manipulating a human to give you information like their login information through false pretenses. That's been around for a while. We train people for that. We have defenses for all this, but it's the speed and scale at which this is happening that we cannot any longer rely on those to protect ourselves from. So we need to do a couple of things. One is we need to use AI in our defenses. We need to have it monitoring what we're doing. We need to have it responding to what we're doing at machine speed, just the way, because it can execute dozens of steps in the time a human is reading the alert.
Mhm.
So when I talk about the changing of the prioritization, whereas not that long ago, we might have said, hey, having a fully 24/7, 365 monitoring of your environment with both tools and security analysts constantly watching everything and looking out for and prioritizing alerts, that would have been a fairly advanced security posture. Today, we're at a point where breaches are not something you can fully stop. They are a matter of time. And so it's now that is a fundamental critical need, that monitoring and alerting and response, just as much as the defenses have always been.
Yeah, so to even get started, right? And there's two parts. There's like the how do I even get started, but then there's also like how do we handle the objection of folks who say things like, yeah, well, I'm not even that big of an organization, and all of my systems are in the cloud, so like I don't even really have an environment to hack.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So three parts that you touched on there. One is that the final point is, hey, I'm small, I'm not a target. Do I really need to worry about this? That may have been somewhat true back in the early days, but now they call that security through obscurity. I'm a hole in the wall, nobody knows who I am, who cares? Somewhat safe. Now, a machine doesn't think about wasting time. It operates at such speed and it can go through every door and see which ones are unlocked at a scale that is unprecedented and frankly incomparable to a human.
And we've seen that. Like we had one client that was in pilot, didn't even think that it was available out there, and it was hacked before launch.
Yeah, so unfortunately, even if you're not specifically thought of as a target by even the malicious actor,
Yeah.
you may still be compromised as part of this. So the second part is how do I get started, right? How do I even begin to think about this? We listed a few different ways that you can defend yourself, but fundamentally, it really falls into three key question areas. One is, do I have the right defenses? Yes, we still want to harden our systems. We still want to patch them as those things are released. We still want to take all the best practices into account, train our personnel, etc. That's part one. Part two is, though, that visibility. Do I know what's going on in my environment? You touched on the fact that, hey, my environment is largely cloud-based. Isn't Microsoft responsible for that, or whoever my cloud providers are? And yes, they have security defenses. But really what that does between your remote workers, hybrid people, clients in other places, guest access, all these different things, what they serve to do, although they bring benefit, they also increase your attack surface and the area of attack.
Right.
There's more areas that a sophisticated AI can find a hole than ever before. So it's actually a big deal. So that visibility to say, if something does get through the gate, am I aware of it? If so, how quickly? And then the third, and just as critical as those other two components, is when something happens, am I prepared to respond, and how quickly?
Yeah. So like we said before, I mean, this is not a pitch. This is a PSA. If you're already working with folks who are helping you with these things, awesome, but ramp it up. Because I think it's fair to say that, most people we talk to, they are not as protected as they think they are. And we have to take this really seriously. And what we're seeing in the news is example of that. So that's number one. And then number two is, if you don't know where to start, we are doing these things all day with folks. We are happy to have the conversation with you to talk about what you've got going on and where you might specifically start.
Very much so.
Right.